is, man, no one is willing to quote unquote snitch on anybody. No one is willing to turn anybody in. People are willing to just live in this violence. And Muriel Bowser's on the Breakfast Club talking about, yeah, the government should not have anything to do with our city and our policing. At the end of the day, she's right. However, what are you doing though? What are you doing? I want to read something else for you guys. And, these two perspectives had really had me thinking, and I'm like 50-50 on on what's being said here, all right? I'm going to read it for you. One guy said, having the military deployed in a city is not a real solution. It addresses the symptoms, not the root causes. When you pack people into a neighborhood with limited resources, underfunded schools, few job opportunities, and little hope for upward mobility, you are setting the stage for desperation and crime. If we truly want safer streets, we have to invest in our community, affordable housing, quality education, accessible mental health care, job training, and youth programs. Not just more uniforms on corners. Now, that guy makes great sense. He put it to you as a whole, and where this came from. I understand that the government had put us in these conditions. And I always say, man, you put four dogs in a small cage that would never bite anybody. I have a dog. I have a pit bull. She's the sweetest thing. Blue wouldn't harm a fly. But if Blue was forced to harm that fly, she would do so like that. The thing is, if you put these four animals in a cage and come back 4 weeks later without any food, without any resources, or just a little bit of food, you probably will come back to one pit bull. You probably will. That or two. Matter of fact, you'll come back to one. I think you'll come back to one. And the government understands this, and they put us in these conditions. However, the thing is, we have to understand something. And we have to understand that we do have minds. We do have the ability as grown people to recognize and discern what's being done to us and what we're doing now to ourselves. The thing is, it's like a horse, you only have to break the horse one time. And when the horse have children, they teach them about what you done broke the horse to do. So at this point, they broke us back in the day. Now we're just passing it down to our children. We are. We are, people. And if you go in the comment section and tell me we're not, we are. Now, I'm not here to victim blame. I'm not here to point the fingers. I use the word we. I'm out of that. But at the end of the day, my family is still in it and my blood is still in it. I care about these things. That's why I'm up here speaking on them. Now, another person commented on that comment. They responded to that comment. This lady said, everything you name, they have. They don't utilize them. How many public schools are left? It seems majority are charter schools, which she is correct in DC. They have healthcare, Medicaid, etc. DC minimum wage is $18 now. Jobs are there. People aren't applying because they don't want to work in a grocery store or fast food. The mentality of the community needs to change. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Inside the Culture podcast. I am your host, Dutch the Creator, and on today's video, we're going to be talking about something oh so serious, sensitive, and important. All right, where do I start here, man? I was trying to figure out how I'm going to do this video. It's been probably a week now since Trump had sent the National Guard into DC. I was born and raised in DC. I moved from DC to Suitland, Maryland in 1999. And since then, I've mainly lived in Forestville, Maryland, Suitland, Maryland, District Heights, Maryland, until I moved out of the hood in when I was 30 years old. I'm 41 years old now. And, I've not lived in a hood in 11 years. However, I do have blood in DC. All of my family lives in DC. I am from Northeast Trinidad, Washington, DC. 1280 was our apartment complex on Rum Street. And if you know where Trinidad is, shout out to you. What's up? I grew up around there. And for a long time, I have been torn about how I feel about being from DC. As I get older, I started to basically, fall on the conservative side. When you're young, you're a rebel. You're a real liberal. You are innovative. You're trying new things. You don't care about nothing. You want everything basically handed to you. I'm sorry. That's how I felt. I felt like, I'm a victim of, white supremacy. And, a lot of people out here, they owe me. Then a lot of black people feel like that, and rightfully so. We've been through a lot of things in this country to make us look at the country in a certain light. And the Democratic Party, they feed on this feeling. And if you guys understand what I'm talking about, you understand what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not a Republican at all. I don't associate with the Republican Party. However, as you grow and develop a family and develop responsibilities, I've been at the same job for almost 20 years now. And I pulled myself up out of the mud. And when I say I got it from the mud, I really got it from the mud. When I say I am from a place where I literally grew up with rats and roaches and rats. I've seen certain things that I can remember right now that a young child should never be exposed to. And all of this was in the confines of the District of Columbia. And I say I'm torn because I am proud of where I come from. I am where I come from. My environment shaped who I am today. But I don't let that hinder me. I don't let it hinder me. Now, I said I didn't know what angle I really wanted to come on this video and give to you guys. So I'm just going to, freestyle this based upon my feelings, based upon facts, based upon logic, and based upon experience. The thing is, man, nobody wants the government coming into your city, your town, your state, or what have you, or your neighborhood. The thing is, that is exactly what conservatism is. See, black people, we are conservative because I do a study every year on my story on Instagram. I would give the definition of conservatism, and I will give the definition of liberalism. And without labeling these things, I'm going to tell you guys, a lot of people in our community identify with conservatism. What is happening right now in DC, you not wanting the government to come in and police you, tell you what to do, tell you to go in the house, so forth and so on. That is conservatism. But We're not being political today. We're just looking at what's actually happening out here in DC. The thing is, man, like I said, nobody wants this. And I don't want it. I don't want it for my city. I hate the fact that my city is getting gentrified. However, the thing is, I grew up there and I understand exactly. And if you grew up there or you're still there, you understand the nuances of what goes on there if you're a law-abiding citizen, you know? There were 198 murders in DC alone this year. And the thing is, man, it's a lot that goes on in DC that has just been going on forever. See, we talk about the government and the National Guard coming into the neighborhoods, and we talk about it as if this never happened before. See, I remember growing up on the corner of Rum Street, Northeast Washington, D.C., Trinidad Avenue, and seeing the violence, seeing the thing. I remember just walking to the store. I had to walk past these drug dealers every day. Walking to school, I had to walk past these drug dealers every day. I've seen things that you would not believe at age 4, 8, 10, 12. And I remember the National Guard coming into our neighborhoods, setting up their tanks right in front of my apartment building. And with these large ass lights to the point where I'm trying to go to sleep and the lights are piercing through my window, period. You see what I'm saying? I remember this. And I thought to myself, man, we must, be doing some crazy things to have the National Guard come in here. Like I said, I don't think that anybody want the National Guard coming into their neighborhood. No. However, what are you going to do when they leave? And what were you doing before they arrived? You see? Now, the thing is, I work, at a job and I'm a supervisor, right? And, the other supervisors, they'll, literally write you up for being 1 minute late. They will write you up for being 1 minute late, right? And me personally, I'll talk to you. I'll let you know, that's 1 minute. And they'll come to me and they'll be like, the other, supervisor, they wrote me up for 1 minute, man. And I'll tell them, look, they shouldn't have did it. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have done that. That is very petty. But I tell them, they have all right to do it. They have all right to do it. At the end of the day, you have to be on your P's and Q's. If you know that supervisor is going to be there that day, guess what? Come early or come on time. Don't give them a reason to try to be petty. You see what I'm saying? At the end of the day, Donald Trump, as the president, has the ability to do this. Just like I told them, they have the ability to write you up for 1 minute. They do. They definitely do. But don't give them a reason, man. And that's where it comes to looking in on our communities here. The thing is, a 1-year-old was shot a couple of weeks ago, and nobody has turned this person in. When I understand and I know without a shadow of a doubt, somebody knows who shot that 1-year-old. A couple of months ago, a 4-year-old got shot, straight bullet. I know without a shadow of a doubt that someone knows who this is. And I don't care if you look at it as snitching. If I'm a law-abiding citizen and I want to live peacefully in my neighborhood, yes, I want these people out. I never claimed to be a gangster. I never claimed to be a hood dude that do gangster shit. Now, I am a hood dude. I come from it, and it can come out of me every once in a while. But at the end of the day, we don't supposed to support these types of things. And I that just have me think about a council member. His name is Trayon White. Trayon White, a couple of years ago, got caught on camera, taking bribes, which we know that's what politicians do. Now, the thing is, he got ousted and then he came back. And the thing about Trayon White is this: he tries to appeal to the younger generation. He's, I think, one of the youngest council members of all time in DC, and he's came up under the tutelage of one Marion Barry. We love Marion Barry. If you know Marion Barry, if you know who he is, you know who he is. And it was some disparaging things in the 90s on him, but we're not going to talk about that. So when I first seen, Trayon White, I respected that man and I understood what he was trying to do. And then he got caught up in this bribery thing. And, I just looked at him and I was like, dude, what are you doing? Why would you even get got like that? How could you even get got like that? But nonetheless, he came out with a statement right before Trump did what he did. And the statement reads this: DC Councilmember Trayon White calls for National Guard support following rising crime rates. The district saw 922 people shot last year, an increase of 33% from the year before. The city's 198 homicides total was also up 19%. Now, this statement is from Muriel Bowser, the mayor of DC. She said, "This is a level of violence that we haven't seen in more than a decade," Bowser said. Statistics show that nearly 96% of last year's homicide victims were Black. Now, you guys heard exactly what the mayor said right before Trump came in, and you heard what Council Member Trayon White said right before Trump came in. And then Trump came out with a statement saying, we're going to do this and we're going to do it hard and we're going to do it as to the best of our ability of getting rid of the crime and homelessness. Now, the homelessness thing, I do not agree with Trump on. He's talking about, arresting homeless people. I mean, damn, it's a crime to be homeless, be in poverty. The cost of living is crazy out here. So I'm 100% not with that at all. However, they asked, it seems like they asked this man to do this. They recognized everything that I've been talking to you guys about for the last 16 minutes. You see what I mean? The thing is, man, National Guard or not, something has to be done. And the thing is, Trayon White, after Trump said what he's going to do and after he did what he did, Trayon White then came out with a statement that said, I don't support this though. I don't. Because he thought people were going to be on his side. He thought the majority of these Black people that live in DC was going to be on his side. And, why not have the National Guard come in? Because you guys see this violence, and then it backfired on him and he backtracked. You see, now he said, hey, it's not necessary. Let us handle our own. But when you handle your own, things happen like I said I've been seeing all my life growing up. You see? Do y'all guys know two things can exist in the same atmosphere? Both have valid points. That man spoke on what got us here, and the woman spoke on what keeps us here. And what keeps us here is what I just said. We pass along certain ideologies and mindset that working at a Wendy's or a grocery store is lame. 14 years old. I was 14 years old and I worked at Wendy's, and I got a check every 2 weeks for about $150. Nah, $125. I think. I think it. I embellished it a little bit, but I didn't mind doing it, you know. But my friends, they didn't want to, literally fill out an application. I wanted to make my own money. That's what I wanted to do. But my friends, each one of them, shout out to them, but they didn't. They laughed at me while coming up there getting free shit though. They did. But it's a joke on Dave Chappelle about Calvin. Y'all remember that joke, that skit? Calvin got a job, y'all. Calvin walking down the street, and it's from an actual commercial of McDonald's put out in the 90s. And Dave Chappelle was doing the parody. And that parody had a lot of truth in it. Because I know a lot of Calvins that were robbed for their money. I know a lot of Calvins that were laughed at for working at McDonald's. You see? So the lady is right. These little YNs don't want to do that. They want to get money fast. They want to go to prison. They want to go to jail. They think that is a rite of passage. I remember I never been locked up, but I hung around people who got locked up before. And I remember sitting in the park or sitting at the gazebo or sitting out on the block. And these dudes are literally praising themselves for who went to prison first and who went to jail first, what judge you had, and this judge was cool. And I couldn't relate. I'm just sitting here watching this shit. Like, in my mind, I'm like, y'all really, y'all really happy about this? Y'all really like touting that, like who went to jail more, who got what judge and all of this? But that's the mentality that this woman is talking about. The thing is, these little dudes don't want to make $18 an hour. They don't want to make $10 an hour. They don't want to make $20 an hour because they know they're going to get laughed at, and they know that it's not enough for what they want to do. You see? But you do have little exceptions around the hood, and they tend to be me, where they can't wait to leave the motherfucker. You see? The thing is, people, man, look, you can have the National Guard in there, and that can be something that you can be fighting for to get out of your neighborhood. But fight for that guy to get out your neighborhood that shot that 1-year-old too. Fight for the hood YNs out there who's just running amok, that don't give a fuck about anything. Elderly, youngins, and they bring the 7 and 8-year-olds up trying to be what they are. At the end of the day, this video that I'm giving you right now is an analyzation of what I see, what I know, and what I've been through, experience. So you can sit up here and argue all day about what Trump is doing to your city. But what are you doing for your city? And I'm going to leave you guys with this. When I was in 7th grade, I went to Brown Junior High over in Northeast. And it was a basketball court right outside of the school. And it was fucked up. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It was fucked up. It was so just horrible. Some white people came into the neighborhood, and they were sponsored by Sprite. They cleaned that thing up. It wasn't no gentrification type shit. They cleaned it up and put new backboards up there. I remember it had Sprite colors and the word Sprite there. And they paved the court again, made the lines real white. And they made that thing. They planted trees and shit and bushes, and they made that thing look very, very pristine, right? I lie to you not. Within 3 months, the backboards was fucked up, painted, spray painted. 21st Street, nigga. The chains on the rims were fucked up. I don't know how they put cracks in the goddamn pavement. Um, I, I, I looked and was like, what the fuck? Why the fuck they fuck it up? The thing is, people, we are in these conditions. And I read a book called As a Man Thinketh that changed my life and mindset. And one quote in there says, you are not your circumstances. You are not your circumstances. Circumstances don't reveal who you are. How you respond to your circumstances reveal who you are. That's all I got, people. I hope you guys stayed to the end of this. I might do this in parts, man, so you can get it, digest it, and you don't have to look at the whole video. But I will be putting this whole video out, and I hope that you guys stay with me for damn near 30 minutes, man, because I care about my city, I care about my people, I care about the DMV as a whole, and I care about kids. I'm a kid advocate. And at the end of the day, man, I see our little kids turning into YNs every day. And I wanted to stop. Y'all will probably ask what the solution is. The solution is getting these knuckleheads out of your neighborhood and you actually being proactive in doing it, not just doing a march or whatever, talking about stop the violence, because it's not going to stop unless you are proactive. Or you're going to have the National Guard come in and sit on your corners. That's all I got. Y'all go down in the comment section and, speak your mind on it. If you agree with me, that's cool. If you agree with me, that's cool. But explain yourself, people. And if you're from DC, let me know what you've been going through in the last week with this thing happening. I heard that they're moving out. I don't know. But at the end of the day, man, y'all, please make sure that you voice your opinions in the comment section. Some videos just popped up here on the screen to get more in depth in the channel if you're finding my channel for the very first time. And again, I am Dutch the Creator, and this has been Inside the Culture Podcast. I'm out. Y'all be safe out there. Peace.